Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So that's the Obama State of the Union. It's a series of stabs in the back to the American people, done, of course, under the usual, in this case, not even left cover. Now it's centrist cover. This is not. This is essentially another path to national suicide. No to Obama's tax reform. Maintain the corporate income tax. Keep your hands off Social Security. Stop your Medicare cuts. No more free trade. No to green jobs. Earmarks, if that's the only way you can deliver some economic benefit, then you better do it that way. Oh, he wants to also he wants to destroy the financial basis of the Democratic Party by allowing tort reform, malpractice reform. That's going to go over big with this trial lawyer constituency. And again, trial lawyers, these are people who have been mangled by some pharmaceutical company or some other form of medical intervention. And obviously under U.S. law, you've got to be able to sue to get some benefits. That's the way this whole system works. So if you simply intervene on that, then you're undermining essentially people's rights. So let's strip people of their rights, and we'll call it reform. Now, what came after that, of course, is Congressman Ryan of Wisconsin, the stomping ground of the John Birch Society, paid for by the father of the Koch brothers, the Koch brothers. And Ryan, essentially, what is his method? Notice, Republicans never want to talk about specifics, because specifics is how they're going to flay you alive. They want to pontificate and parade their principles. They want to rant about their superior principles of limited government and individual responsibility and all these other empty slogans. Rugged individualism, that was the watchword of Herbert Hoover. And with that, he essentially presided over the destruction of the U.S. economy. Therefore, Ryan's task was to pay tribute to these Republican reactionary platitudes, but without telling you how he's actually going to flay you alive. Now, his program is he wants to privatize Social Security. Instead of Medicare, you're going to get a coupon, which will, of course, be worth less and less, because as you get older, and you are, by the time you get into your 90s, the coupon they give you is not going to come near paying what you need in order to get medical insurance at such an age. So Ryan has to hide all these things. Ryan's plan comes down to genocide against older Americans. That would be the net effect of it, that many more would die, as they did die before Medicare was implemented. And, of course, you can see Obama takes a slower track using various kinds of cover. If you read Ryan's roadmap, it's all in there, very, very obvious. But that's not what he was told to talk about in this particular broadcast. So Ryan's effort was to conceal the genocidal intent of the Republican mainstream. And then we had Bachmann, who I think is obviously mentally unstable. Bachmann looks like she's ready for the psychiatric clinic. And it's not just which direction she was looking in. I'm sure she's looking in all directions. But the essential nuts and bolts of the policy, to the extent that there were any, these were absolutely abysmal. So if this is what this of course is a politician who had been there for a long time, who has now battened herself on to the Tea Party slogan, simply an opportunist, right? Political hacks, discredited political time servers and hacks who now reinvent themselves by applying the label Tea Party to themselves. Not good. It's interesting, the Tea Party caucus in the Senate is not so popular as thought. And there's a hint of Typhoid Mary around the Republican Tea Party caucus. Who came to the first meeting? Well, of course, Senator DeMint, in reality, Senator Dement, because he's demented. Senator Demented called a meeting of the Senate Tea Party caucus. Who came? Rand Paul came, and Mike Lee. Mike Lee is the new guy from Utah who thinks that child labor laws are unconstitutional. He wants to strip you of your federal protection against child labor laws and leave that up to the tender mercies of the state. I can imagine what Alabama and Mississippi are going to do in terms of really stopping child labor, because they would never allow that, would they? The people who did not come, Johnson of Wisconsin didn't come. Rubio, the golden boy of the reactionaries, decided not to come. And even Toomey of Pennsylvania decided not to come. So they all stayed away from the DeMint Tea Party caucus. That's rather interesting. So, in terms of the Tea Party, we also have a very interesting commentary. This is from George Will, and it's the Washington Post of January 23rd. Now, here he cites a book that I've had occasion to refer to in my own books at various times. Samuel Huntington, now deceased, in 1981, right after Huntington and Brzezinski had piloted the catastrophic Carter experience, catastrophic for the United States, but good from the point of view of these people. American politics, the promise of disharmony. And this is, of course, the question of the creedal passion period. The creedal passion period, according to Huntington, there were only 4 of them. The revolutionary era of the 1770s, the Jacksonian era of the 1830s, the progressive era 1900, and the 1960s. And according to Will, we are now in the 5th. But he wants this to be viewed essentially as the Tea Party, that the 5th creedal passion period is the Tea Party. And according to Will the Shill, the American creed's values are liberal in terms of 19th century liberalism. These express the 18th century's preoccupation with defending liberty against government. They are individualistic, democratic, egalitarian, and hence basically anti-government and anti-authority. Well, as usual with Samuel Huntington, you're dealing with some mortal leaps in terms of the historical analysis. Remember, Huntington is the guy who says that Latin America is not part of Western civilization. People who are Roman Catholic and speak Spanish, Portuguese, or French, or maybe even Dutch, they're not part of Western civilization because they're corporatist, and corporatism is not part of Western civilization. This is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, Huntington does violence to American history because we're not dealing just with 4 creedal passion periods. We're dealing with more. And indeed, not all of these were anti-big government, as Huntington would like to put it. I say this also for you right-wingers, if any still tune in. If you want to look at this big government slogan, where does this come from? Here's Samuel Huntington. This is the heart of the establishment. If not the heart, then the liver or the stomach or the brain or something like this. And he's telling you that it's always going to be anti-big government. Well, the American Revolution was against the British government, created then the Articles of Confederation, but then led to a fairly strong government under the Federalist. Jacksonian democracy was largely a fraud and was dedicated to demolishing the economic dirigistic aspects of the U.S. government, allowing the British then to come in and create the Panic of 1837. The progressive era, I can't see how you're going to call the progressive era 1900 to 1920 an anti-government period. And the 1960s, well, anti-war, but anti-government I don't see, because here we have in the middle of this the Johnson Great Society, the approval of Medicare, and so forth. Even more so, look what's not included, the period, let's say, of the war hawks, pre-1812. People who said there has to be a war in order to save the country, or the abolitionist movement and then the Civil War, which creates what some have called the Yankee Leviathan, a much stronger centralized government than had obtained before. We'll be back in a minute.